guards will move into the position around the table and place one of the service colors of the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, and Coast Guard on each empty dinner plate at each table setting. Tommy LeBron, a Navy veteran, will explain the meaning of the items on the specific table. Tommy?
Forward march.
Husband's over there, you can't see him.
Good evening. The POW MIA Remembrance Table. It is set for 5, symbolizing the fact that members of our armed forces are missing from our ranks. They are referred to as POWs and MIAs. We call them comrades. They are unable to be with their loved ones and families, so we join together to pay our humble tribute to them and bear witness to their continued absence. This table, set for 5, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner, alone against his or her suppressors. The tablecloth is white, symbolic of the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. The single red rose in the vase signifies the blood that many have shed in sacrifice to ensure the freedom of our beloved United States of America. This rose also reminds us of the family and friends of our missing comrades who keep the faith while awaiting their return. The yellow ribbon on the vase represents the yellow ribbons worn on the lapels of the thousands who demand with unyielding determination a proper accounting of our comrades who are not among us tonight. A slice of lemon on the plate reminds us of their bitter fate. The salt sprinkled on the plate reminds us of the countless fallen tears of the families as they wait. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us this night. The chair is empty. They are not here. The candle is reminiscent of the light of hope, which lives in our hearts to illuminate their way home, away from their captors, to the open arms of a grateful nation. Detail. Dismissed.
I got it. Right. Face. Forward march.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. My name's Randy Denny, Lot 562. Been in Old Bridge 12, 13 years, I think, and this is all family as far as I can see. My story begins in November of 1963. I was a 23-year-old private in the U.S. Army traveling to Heidelberg, Germany, to serve with the 656 Intel Battalion as a cartographer or mapmaker. I was one of approximately 360,000 military personnel either drafted or recalled, resulting from the construction of the Berlin Wall in 1961 and the anticipation of a Cold War. Having traveled to Fort Hamilton, New York, I boarded the USS William O. Darby with approximately 3,000 other military personnel. If I don't read this from a script, I'll talk about my cat and my lawn and other military personnel to Bremerhaven, Germany. The USS Darby was commissioned in 1945, served in the Pacific as a U.S. Navy ship until 1947, when it was transferred to the U.S. Army Transportation Command. The typical complement of the Derby was 5,000 personnel. On November 14th, 1963, the Derby weighed anchor, steamed northeast toward the Faroe and Shetland Islands, just north of Scotland, and then turning southeast toward the port of Bremerhaven, Germany. The seas in the North Atlantic were running high, typical for a winter crossing. Moving about in a 5-story ship in rough weather was a very new experience for this 23-year-old. The biggest boat I had ever been on was 30 foot long in a very calm river. About 2/3 of the passengers were sick a portion or all of the way. I was fortunate not being predisposed to motion sickness, and an old bosun mate suggested I eat crackers for the entire voyage, and that helped me, along with a job in the library, to keep my mind off of it. So thank you, U.S. Navy. Six days out of Fort Hamilton, the chaplain came on the squawk box and announced President John F. Kennedy had been shot while visiting Dallas, Texas. At that time, the ship slowed, and it was announced all running lights were to be extinguished, and we were to go to half speed. That meant we were wallowing around in high seas for up to 6 hours, not knowing whether we were going to war, going to a neutral port, or continuing to Bremerhaven, Germany. Those were maybe the longest 6 hours of my young life. We didn't know whether we were going to war or going to the most beautiful country in Europe. We waffled in the rough seas while 1,000 seasick fellow soldiers continued the voyage, and after 6 hours, we were advised that the president had been assassinated. Our orders at that point came through to increase speed, maintain course to Bremerhaven. War, it wasn't imminent. Were we sad, happy, relieved? Yes, all of those. After 6 days of further steaming, we came into the port of Bremerhaven, disembarked directly onto a train to transport to our respective duty stations. Germany's highest honor was bestowed on our president, a 30-day period of national mourning, flags at half-mast, and all live entertainment canceled during this period. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sure. And after I was graduated from medical school, they used to have a light, and the light was on, and it would be green. And
Close up. We can't hear you. Put the mic closer to you.
yes, okay. So the light was green, and then it had 30 seconds to finish up and summarize, and it turned yellow, and then it turned red. And I really think the politicians all should have that. Anyway, I'm Kirk Hilliard. I've been a resident of Old Bridge for the last 7 years. I was a snowbird before that, and it was upriver. And but I'm happy to be here and enjoy that. I'm a veteran of the U.S. Army Medical Corps. So I had, in 1968, I had just was finishing my internship. I'd been through medical school. I really didn't have time, to be truthful to know what was going on in the world, and especially about Vietnam. I decided that I wanted to go into OBGYN, and now I can't even think why I wanted to do that. It's a good thing my wife's not here. But Anyway, I was going over to sign the contract to start that residency when I went through the mailroom, and Lord and behold, there was a letter from Uncle Sam. And they drafted me. And so I called home, had to change my career, and my folks had been watching the war, and I don't think they were really into it and really felt comfortable about it. So my dad said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "What do you mean, what am I going to do? I'm going to sign up. I'm going to go. If it takes me to Vietnam, that's where I'm going, you know." And that's what I did. And I'm proud that I did that. So a couple months went by, and they sent me down to San Antonio to Fort Sam Houston and Brooke Army. And they kind of gave us a little training, but you know, doctors were going to the hospitals, doctors were going to the aid stations, doctors were going to the clearing companies. So they didn't give us really much training. They let me shoot the M16. They shot over me as I crawled through the mud. They sent me out with a compass, trying to get my back to where I was supposed to go, which we didn't. And they also told us about the military and the complex of divisions and brigades and how to wear your uniform and how to look somewhat like a soldier. Well, the night of graduation, we showed them what kind of soldiers we were. Well, we were supposed to make a left turn, but we made a right turn, and off through the thing we went. And all I could think of was the generals up there going, "Holy crap, that's our doctors out there." So anyway, next thing I knew, I was headed to Vietnam, and I got my assignment. And the guy in front of me got the engineering battalion. Somebody else got that. And the fellow says, "Oh, you're going to like this place." I go, "Yeah." He gets out of the chair, points way up in the northern part of the southern part of Vietnam, and I went to a fire base. So I'm out there in the fire base. I don't know, incoming from outgoing. And I was scared. I was really scared. Every day, I kept waking up and I was alive. Oh, crap. So, I had a couple privileges, and I'm sure that you all think that all the doctors got all those privileges, but the one privilege I had was I had the only generator and the only refrigerator outside the mess hall. And you know why? No. The reason I got it was because of the vaccines that I had to give you. And the vaccines are about that big. It took about 6 square inches in the refrigerator, and you're right, the rest of it was beer. And the beer got me access to all the officers that were out in the field that came in, would come and they would describe things that happened and so forth. So I did that. There was a shower, a hot shower, for the troops that went off from the fire base and came back. But they never let my men, the medics, use the fire base or use the shower. So I was fortunate to have a sergeant show up, and he was going to be in the service for his entire time. And he had an STD that he didn't want to be on his record. So, having learned the way the military works, you know, there's a chain of command, and then there's this other level that you work with. And I told him, and he had a very unusual STD. And I don't know how I recognized it, but, you know, some parts of the book. So I told him, I said, if I get you better, then you'll light up that generator and get hot water and take my medics every week down there. And they said yes. The only mistake I made was I drove my Jeep down there. Captains don't drive Jeeps. I got in trouble about that. The guys that were medics, I had a whole bunch of them, and some of them were conscientious objectors. They did their job. Those guys I'm really proud of. Lost a few of them, but the majority of them came through. So I was out in the field for 7 months. I was promised to be out. I'm sure all of you have been promised, right? There is no promise in the service at all. So anyway, so I'm at 7 months, and I said to my sergeant, how the hell am I going to get off this place? And he goes, let me see what I can do. So he calls back. He says, tomorrow the colonel's going to come out and see you. I said, you're kidding me. Anyway, the colonel came. I met him. He says to me, what seems to be the problem? And I said, I was promised to be out at the field in 6 months, and it's 7. Why am I still here? He said, you're doing a good job. I looked at my watch. I said, it's 1,400 hours, and you're looking at your number 1 screw up. So he sent me to, he said, where do you want to go? And I said, well, I want to go to a hospital. So he sent me to the hospital furthest, just right outside of Way, 85th of Vac. And 2 things I wanted to say about that was the nurses. We need to recognize the nurses. The nurses worked 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week. The doctors worked in the emergency room. We took care of the medical patients. They had high fevers. They took them outside. They mist them with water and tried to comfort them. The surgical nurses had to put up with all the amputations and things that we had done to various people, and they did a great job. So I give them a lot of credit. And I have one more story, and then I'm done. So I was coming through the ward, and one of the nurses says to me, you know, it's steak night, and I don't get out till 7 o'clock. Can you get me a steak? Well, I'll tell you, getting a steak in Vietnam was precious. Getting 2 steaks was almost impossible. I didn't figure that I must have bribed the guy, you know, but I got 2 of them. And the nurse came, we ate, I fell in love with her. I ended up leaving Vietnam, told her I'd meet her in Japan on New Year's, and I did. And she came back to Fort Hood, and we finally got married, and I had her for 43 years as a veteran and a partner. And she still outranks me.
Detail face.
The portion of the flag denoting honor is the canton of blue, containing the stars, representing states our veterans served in uniform. The field of blue dresses from left to right and is inverted only when draped as a funeral cloth over the casket of a veteran who has served our country honorably in uniform and the U.S. Armed Forces. At the ceremony of retreat, the flag is lowered, folded in a triangle, and kept under watch throughout the night as a tribute to our nation's honored dead. The next morning, it is brought out and, at a ceremony of reveille, flown high as a symbol of belief in the resurrection of the body. The first fold of our flag is a symbol of life. The second fold is a symbol of our belief in eternal life. The third fold is made in honor of and remembrance of the veteran departing our ranks who gave a portion of his or her life for the defense of our country to attain peace throughout the world. The fourth fold represents our weaker nature. As American citizens trusting in God, it is Him we turn to in times of peace as well as in times of war for His divine guidance. The fifth fold is a tribute to our country. In the words of Stephen Decatur, our country, in dealing with other countries, may she always be right, but it is still our country, right or wrong. The sixth fold is for where our hearts lie. It is with our heart that we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The seventh fold is a tribute to our armed forces, for it is through the armed forces that we protect our country and our flag against all enemies, whether they be found within or without the boundaries of our republic. The eighth fold is a tribute to the one who entered into the valley of the shadow of death, that we may see the light of day and honor our mother, for whom it flies on Mother's Day. The ninth fold is a tribute to womanhood. It has been through their faith, love, loyalty, and devotion that has molded the character of the men and women who have made this country great. The 10th fold is a tribute to Father, who has also given his sons and daughters for the defense of our country since he or she was first born. The 11th fold represents the lower portion of the seal of the King of David and King Solomon and glorifies the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The 12th fold represents an emblem of eternity and glorifies God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. The 13th and last fold, when the flag is completely folded, the stars are uppermost, reminding us of our national motto, "In God we trust." After the flag is completely folded and tucked in, it has the appearance of a cocked hat, ever reminding us of the soldiers who served under General George Washington, and the sailors and Marines who served under Captain John Paul Jones, and were followed by their comrades and shipmates in the U.S. Armed Forces, preserving for us the rights, privileges, and freedom we enjoy today. Honor Guard dismissed.
Forward, march. Detail, halt. Flag, face. Dress flag. Dress.
Now it's time to honor our veterans. Veterans, please stand when you hear your melody and remain standing until the end of your melody.